What's up, Billy? We're going to try something different today. I need to get my steps in, so we're going to do that while learning about all the Warhammers. Let's go.
As someone who doesn't necessarily serve the Omnissiah, but someone who can appreciate them, you will not be getting my legs today, as I will be replacing them with various things depending on which faction we are currently talking about to add a little bit more context and possible comedy to whatever the hell I am currently doing.
Okay.
So, hello everybody, my name is Bricky, and this is going to be a long video and a large project that has been going on for quite some time.
And I appreciate you doing that, Bricky. By the way, if you all haven't already, go spread the love to Bricky. Man's making some amazing content.
Warhammer 40K.
And I'm going to learn about Warhammer,
kind
baby.
Of a nutshell,
Woo!
Explained, a little bit of explanation, a little bit of lore, a little bit of talking about the tabletop, mostly lore, what they're all about, and also a little bit of background for those of you who just have no clue what Warhammer 40,000 is. Now you see, Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 is a universe people hear plenty of, but don't know a whole lot about. They see, oh, there's these dudes in big power armor with chainsaw swords, and they got these big old green orcs, and there's some bugs.
It's badass!
Everyone calls these guys weebs, and then there's these spiky bitches over here, and I don't get it. I don't understand. Where do I start? Well, this video is particularly for you, or for those of you who have a little bit of knowledge, but you're kind of curious about each of the different races and factions in Warhammer.
Yes, please explain to me.
Overall, the Warhammer universe is vast when it comes to lore and background, and each different faction is so different with the things that they believe in, and some are human, some are transhuman, like where they all have all these crazy ass electronics on them. You've got aliens,
All him, the
you've got
Omnissiah.
the chaos factions, and there's so much to entail that I decided
What?
to embark on this
I want to fight
project
against that guy.
to tell you what each and every single one of them is about, and what the Warhammer universe is about as well, to give at least a little bit of an intro to this extremely bloated but very, very enjoyable world that I and many others partake in. So, I will be explaining every single faction
we're just going
in
down the
Warhammer
list, baby.
40K universe, at least all the factions you can play as, and some smaller factions here and there. I will not be discussing absolutely everything in it because that is a little bit much, and I'm not going to go too mega deep into the lore. I'm going to give you a pretty solid overview of each of the different factions and have you learn a little bit about them, and we'll discuss a little bit of the tabletop as well in case you are curious about that. But for this episode entirely, we are discussing the Imperium of Man because that takes up a fat chunk of Warhammer lore. Oh, boo-hoo! What is Warhammer 40,000? Well, the 40,000 starts off is the year 40,000. The 41st millennium, that's where it takes place, is in the year 40,000, 41,000 AD.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
You're already more knowledgeable. Let me read you a quote, first of many quotes in this video. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 years, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. To be a man in such times is to be amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim, dark future, there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods. Everything blows. And it blows fucking hard. Warhammer is probably the most dark and depressing universes ever in fiction, or at least like top 3. Everything is so absurdly horrible, destructive, or overpowered that it all kind of ends up canceling itself out. It's like Dota. War rages across the galaxy. Interstellar travel is only possible due to sacrificing 1,000 souls a day to a rotting carcass of a man who you believe to be your god. Demonic gods and just demons tear open the fabric of reality on a whim. Other Xenos or even other humans end up killing each other in untold billions across the galaxy. It is a time of unending war, slaughter, and a bloodbath amongst everybody. Planets are deemed unrecoverable and are completely destroyed on a whim. Everything sucks, but that's like the charm of it. See, everything in Warhammer is evil, but being evil is kind of fun. Like, humanity in its own right is a xenophobic, prejudice, and religious zealot group that kill each other just as much as they kill all of their enemies.
What?
And they're like mid to high tier evil on the evil scale of Warhammer. Nobody is good. No matter who you are, everyone is some flavor, some color of evil. Whoever you pick, you are going to be the bad guy. But that's the fun of it, because being the bad guy is badass. Villains are cool. They look cool, they got cool outfits, they got cool weapons, they got cool armies. Villains are cool, man.
All right.
And when everyone is a villain,
okay,
everyone is pretty cool.
Where's he going with this? He's going somewhere with this.
Is that everyone can be the bad guy. So let's start off talking about the main bad guy, quote unquote, the Imperium of Man.
His hair, whack. His gear, whack.
The Imperium of Man is the main empire of the human race. All of humanity is under this one flag called the Imperium. And about 10,000 years ago, there was a man. He was the Emperor of mankind, a 10-foot-tall psychic demigod who led humanity across the stars to colonize tons and tons of worlds, create superhuman soldiers, and really bring humanity into a new age. This man, the Emperor of Mankind, was a psyker. And a psyker is like a magician of sorts. In the world of 40K, there is the warp, the immaterium.
You use your psyker too much.
But sort of like a purgatory dimension of hell. And a psyker is someone who can take that power and manifest it through their mind to use it to do stuff. Like witchcraft stuff, magician stuff, spells, and lots of other things, but we don't want to get too into that. The Emperor, big boy psyker. Top tier, A+, maybe even S. Now, the Emperor created a bunch of sons. Yes, created a bunch of sons known as the Primarchs. He created 18 Primarchs to have them lead all of the different legions of
what about the other two? I want to know now. What about the other two?
And plans to help colonize and bring it out. These Primarchs are basically like little versions of the Emperor. Not all of them are psychers, but a lot of them are very, very powerful, and they lead his special Space Marine legions. Then this big clusterfuck happened called the Horus Heresy, where the Emperor's favorite son, the Primarch, Horus, ended up joining Chaos and leading 9 of the 18, half of his Primarchs directly to Earth to fight down the Emperor himself. Now, if you want to know what Chaos is, remember what I mentioned earlier, the warp, that immaterium, the hellish place? Chaos. In there relies the 4 Chaos gods. Imagine like Satan and 3 other Satans. The warp being kind of evil, those Chaos gods, that's the reason.
What?
And so those Chaos gods manipulated Horus, and then Horus helped manipulate all 8 other Primarchs to lead this giant coup directly on the Emperor on Earth. And they fucked up shit. After this huge civil war, Horus died, but not before brutally wounding the Emperor. And right at the end of his life, they put the Emperor on this large golden throne on Earth, and merged him with technology. Alive, just barely, but slowly rotting away, powering something called the Astronomicon, so long as he stays alive, and is fed 1,000 people a day. The Astronomicon is like the North Star. If you want to do interstellar travel in 40K, you need to pass through that demonic warp I mentioned earlier. But how do you know where you're going? Well, the Emperor is there putting a nice little navigator right there. He helps navigate you to know where you're going. If you want to go
the Emperor
from Earth
protects.
To some
oh my God, is that why they always say the Emperor protects?
Go through that warp, and then you need to know where you're going.
Holy shit, what?
And pop your way out.
We're paying this guy 1,000 souls a day?
Travel in Minecraft, so you can shorten the distance between going to areas. So long as the Emperor is alive and being fed 1,000 people a day to stay alive, you can do that. The moment he dies, interstellar travel's gone for all of humanity. You're so boned. Now, since
You're
the Horus
so
Heresy
boned.
10,000 years ago, the Imperium has fallen from grace substantially. All technology has started to dwindle and die. There is now giant fundamental religious extremists that now believe the Emperor of Mankind was a deity, a true living god, which is probably the last thing the Emperor would have wanted to be remembered for. So now you have this thing called the Ecclesiarchy, which is this giant church entirely devoted to spreading the good word of the Emperor. He is now the Holy Emperor God, the God Emperor of mankind, and all of the Imperium has taken up worshiping him to the fullest extent and killing anything that isn't humanity in his name. The Imperium
I've praised
has
the
this
Emperor so many times. I
futuristic
didn't realize I was
Gothic
praising this
tone to
guy.
it and a hefty religious zealotry to them. If you think anything against the Emperor, that's heresy and you deserve to die. That is called being a heretic. Heretics die in 40K. There is no such thing as freedom of religion. There is no such thing as freedom of speech, so long as you are against the Emperor. There is no such thing as any kind of tolerance. Everyone is a religious zealot. Some more than others, but no matter what, you're preaching that good word. So right now,
Preaching, baby.
everyone in humanity is trying to expand their empire across the stars. If you are a heretic, someone who doesn't believe in the Emperor, you are deserving of death. If you believe in the Chaos Gods, you are also a heretic and you deserve death. If you are an alien race of any kind, you are a filthy Xenos and you deserve death as well. So long as the murder continues and humanity expands.
No wonder why they need 1,000 souls a day, bro. Everyone's a heretic. It makes complete sense.
The largest fighting force of this Imperium is my personal favorite faction, and the first faction we will discuss, the Astra Militarum, or also known as the Imperial Guard.
Pretty shit now, man. You finished? That's it, man. Game over, man.
The Imperial Guard is the main fighting force of the Imperium.
Hoorah!
And in a world of horrifying creatures, galactic monstrosities, the literal demons themselves
love
breaking
how he's in
through
a
the
tank.
fabric of time to kill you, the Imperial Guard are untold billions of regular men and women wearing modern day like flak armor with a laser rifle. This is the humble las gun, the main weapon of the Imperial Guard. It fires superheated
piece of shit,
plasma
not gonna
lasers at an extremely fast fire rate. It is reliable, never jams. It can blow off limbs, giant holes in concrete. It is overall an extremely devastating weapon in modern day. It is one of the weakest in the 40K universe. Yeah, a laser rifle that never jams. It can
looked
blow
at
off
it.
limbs.
It
One
looked
of the
like
weakest
garbage.
weapons.
I've never used it
That's
before,
the
but it
world
looks
we're
like
in right now.
garbage.
But who cares? Because the Imperial Guard has, in each battle, 500,000 of these men and women. 30,000 large armored tanks, 10,000 artillery batteries. The Imperial Guard wins through sheer numbers and firepower. They kind of have this World War I, World War II style aesthetic with legions of guardsmen as well as high company commanders and generals on the field along with them, and multiple kinds of troops. A normal Imperial Guard battle starts off with artillery, long lines of artillery. Cracking the crust of the planet underneath the enemy's feet. And as this barrage continues, hundreds of thousands of guardsmen, a sea of guardsmen surges forward, firing and charging at everything possible while the planet rumbles as tanks roll up behind them. Gunships block out the sun and tanks block out the dirt with the steps and hoof prints of millions of guardsmen. It is through numbers and sheer sundering firepower. They are the first and last line of defense for the Imperium and make up a huge bulk of the battles. The Imperial
That's
Guard is also
insane,
made
to
up of
literally
tons
just
of different
overwhelm
kinds
your
of
enemy with
regiments.
numbers.
The
Who cares if they
Catachan
got good
jungle
guns?
Fighters live in a death world that's more hospitable than almost any firefight they'll ever get into. So they just have this steroid-looking, giant knife, Rambo Predator-looking sons of bitches where nothing is anywhere near as scary as a simple knight on their home planet. You have the Valhallan Winter Soldiers who haven't felt their toes in 300 years, the Mordian Iron Guard who are more interested in making their shoes shine than actually fighting a battle, and then of course the big one, the Cadians from Cadia.
Wait, what?
the
What?
biggest export of
What?
guardsmen in the entirety of the Imperium. You will fire your first gun at 5. You will disassemble and reassemble it at 10. You will have pounding artillery drills day in and day out at 15. And you'll fight your first Swarm Lord at 16. And if you mention Cadia, you will burst into an unrelenting amount of tears and sadness like I do daily. To quote, I have at my command an entire battle group of the Imperial Guard, 50 regiments including specialized drop troops, stealthers, mechanized formations, armored companies, combat engineers, and mobile artillery. Over 500,000 fighting men and 30,000 tanks and artillery pieces are mine to command. Emperor, show mercy to the fool that stands against me, for I shall not. The Imperial Guard are my personal favorite faction in 40K. They're the army I collect the most, the ones I enjoy playing the most, and the one I enjoy in the lore sense a lot. There's something about just a regular man with a laser rifle being told to charge the horrors of this universe and willingly doing so for his god.
I'm with him. I'm with
just
him on that.
Poetic. They actually represent the main Imperial Guard tactics pretty well. Large amounts of artillery that doesn't require a line of sight, lots of tanks, tons of infantry, drop troops, and gunships. Overall, they're pretty similar to how they sound, though a little bit expensive to collect, unfortunately. And they don't hit a lot. They have a bit of a bad aim, but you don't really care because you're just drowning them in shots. However, if you want more accurate fire and specialization, we can move on to talk about Space Marines.
Who?
The Angels of Death are up next. Space Marines are genetically engineered super soldiers and superhumans.
Yes.
They're given extra organs, their skin tissue is toughened, their bones are stronger, they're taller than the average person. They're pretty massive people, and these are the specialized super soldiers that carry out a lot of the more specific tasks for the Imperium. And there's tons of legions of them. In fact, there's one per Primarch. Each Primarch, the Emperor's son, as I mentioned before, oversees their legion of Space Marines. The genetic upgrade they get is based on the genes of said Primarch. It's something called a gene seed. That's what brings them up to this like superhuman level. As stated, each Primarch has their own legion. Robot Girly Man has the Ultramarines, Jagatai Khan has the White Scars, Rogel Dorn has the Imperial Fists, Corvus Corax has the Raven Guard.
I like that
There's
one.
a whole bunch of other side sections that are also extremely interesting and have a little bit more of a twist on the average Space Marines, which we will discuss in a bit. Humorously enough, I don't have a whole lot to say about Space Marines. They're superhumanly fast. In fact, it's been said that nothing that large should move that quick. These men in power armor moving at blazing fast speeds. Their reflexes
that makes
are
sense
faster,
why they have
their
all
skin
the
is tougher.
implants
They
in them
are
now.
overall just extremely powerful soldiers. In fact, where they differ comes down to which Space Marine Legion we're talking about. For instance, the Ultramarines done by Robot Gilliman are the main blue boys, strong in almost every way, the jack of all trades kind of group that are a little bit too strong, and that's a lore problem, but the White Stars by Jagatai Khan are all about speed freaks, go fast. We're talking attack bikes, we're talking land speeders. You want to go in quick, you want to hit them hard, you want them to be swarming around like buzzflies. Buzzsaws.
Buzzsaws, yeah. He got
The
it.
speed of buzzsaws. Fuck you, Pale King. Salamanders love fire. Fire in the forge, fire in battle. Flamers, melta-guns, multi-meltas. Just so long as something can be burning, that's big. And they're also actually some of the nicest of the Space Marines. A lot of Space Marines have this kind of like holier-than-thou thing because of their genetic strength. However, the Salamanders tend to put human lives above the lives of themselves, which is actually rather rare.
Interesting.
They're also all
interesting.
black,
The green
but
color is
not
actually one
like
that I chose
just
before
regular
this. Like
black,
when I started
like,
the game.
Like 2 a.m. line at a White Castle. Black. Like they have a charcoal, dark, ashy exterior and blazing red eyes. Apparently something about living on their home planet of Nocturne, which I don't know if that makes much sense, but who cares? This is like fantasy land anyway. Overall,
Yeah,
Salamanders are
Fantasyland.
actually one of my personal favorite legions because they're just really cool. They're fun to play as because of all their flamer weapons, and they have a nice, like, more heartwarming lore as opposed to being super evil like everyone else is. Oh my god, we're not even a quarter of the way through the Space Marine Legions. Imperial Fists believe in the power of the siege and defensive positions. Raven Guards, master of stealth and sabotage while having bird helmets. Iron Hands, masters of machines and vehicles while being really goddamn good at being sold on eBay after one nerf. Space Wolves, Vikings and wolves and tons of wolves and axes, battle axes, fur everywhere. Space Wolves, angry.
Space Wolves.
Blood Angels, the genetic defect to make them want to drink blood and go crazy, called the Red Thirst. They have Cupid wings and stuff, which is a little bit strange, and they are all super gay for Sanguinius. Dark Angels are old school knights and inner circle theme and...
Redacted.
Are you a heretic?
Me? No, never. Once in a blue moon, I know.
Death Watch, fancy anti-Xenos group that nobody plays because Death Watch, and they look cool though, but no one plays them. I don't know about Death Watch. They're there though. Black Templars, for the people who, if you haven't prayed at least 3 times a day, you're gonna start praying out that airlock. And I'm sure there's some other chapters I may have missed as well, like Crimson.
They just airlock you if you don't actually pray 3 times a day.
Right here. Quote from the Emperor himself. They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give of themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war I shall forge them. They shall be of iron will and steely sinew. In great armor I shall clad them, and with the mightiest weapons shall they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease, no sickness shall blight them. They shall have such tactics, strategies, and machines that no foe will best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are my defenders of humanity. They are my space marines, and they shall know no fear.
Jesus.
And on the tabletop, they fuck. Oh, they fuck hard.
Really?
As of making this video, Space Marines are laughably strong. That might change at some point, but overall, Space Marines just have it's like a Swiss Army knife. A tool for anything you need, except it's like a gold-plated Swiss Army knife. It is extremely strong. If you are actually getting into the tabletop of Warhammer, Space Marines are a great start. Also, whatever gameplay style you have, whether you want to be sit back with long range and heavy weaponry, go fast and run in, or even just full melee, all of these options are totally there for you. Space Marines are super badass, but unfortunately, it's time we start praying to our new god, the 2011 Honda Civic.
So is it any wonder people
The
are afraid
Adeptus
of
Mechanicus.
technology?
The Adeptus Mechanicus. The Adeptus Mechanicus are a technophile cult on Mars. Now, these people are a little bit weird because they don't actually really believe in the Emperor of Mankind. And you might think, oh, whoa, Berkey,
Heretic!
that sounds like some heresy. A little bit. They believe in the Emperor, they believe in his power, but they don't pray to him. They pray to something called the Omnissiah. And the Omnissiah is this kind of machine god that they believe permeates in all machines. And if you think, well, wait a minute, they believe in a different god as well? That sounds like super heresy. Well, yes-ish, but they also make all your guns, and they make all your tanks, and they make everything that you have. So you can't really tell them to fuck off because you're not going to win nothing.
They've made themselves indispensable, is what I'm hearing.
See, their Omnissiah at least makes sense from their standpoint. They believe it to be a deity that permeates through all machines. Your Honda Civic, your standard bolt gun, your Dune Strider Walker, your giant mechs, your huge ships. The Omnissiah is present through all. And the only reason your stuff works is because the machine's spirit in it says it works. If you want your gun to work, your tank to run, you must pray to it.
Praise to Omnissiah.
And I mean full stop. You need to start chanting in high Gothic. You need to burn incense. You need to sit on your knees and pray to that car. You need to rub oil on your robes, and you need to go, ahomina, homina, 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 homina. Full stop. If you want your damn thing to work, if you want your gun to fire, you need to do that. They are very bizarre, and they actually have a bit of a point because it's obviously working. And if you look at them, I don't know how that works. So they obviously
I don't know how
what
that
they're
works.
doing. The most notable member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is Magos, whatever, Belisarius Call. Look at this dude. Look at this dude. Yeah, this is the group we're talking about. These are these weirdos. Here, the Omnissian Creed. The credo, Omnissia. There is no truth in flesh, only betrayal.
Praise.
There is no strength in flesh, only weakness. There is no constancy in flesh, only decay. There is no certainty in flesh, but death. Flesh is weakness, flesh is death. The Omnissia is the god of the machines, and if you wish to be whole, if you wish to be holy, if you wish to give unto him, you must saw down your limbs and remove your organs and replace them with mechanical parts, because that is what he wants, and that is how you will become enlightened. Hard technophiles
right.
mixed with religious
I believe in my
extremism.
phone. There's a spirit in there.
Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, for their army side of things, they are with the Scutari. The Scutari operate with very bizarre weaponry and lots of different kinds of vehicles, tanks, and different people in between. They're very weird, but they have extremely wacky and enjoyable, and in fact quite effective, both in the real game and in the lore, weaponry and gear. Overall, as an army on the tabletop, they're very weird and have a whole bunch of different shenanigans, but if you like kind of that quirky, wacky techno thing, I'd give them a pickup.
I like it.
Hell,
I like
they're
that.
so paranoid. I gotta keep going. They're so paranoid and crazy. These Dune Striders you see right here, one guy was able to make them work. One guy, and he died. And they're so scared they'll never work again that they keep them on and they never turn them off, and they run around in a circle the whole time until they need them, and then they corral it and they go into battle. Yep. The Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, if you want to talk about faith, though, let's talk about the Sisters of Battle.
A simp has fallen for an e-girl in Lego City.
The Adeptus
The Sisters
Sororitas?
of Battle of the Adeptus Sororitas, if that's how I pronounce it correctly, is an all-female group of battle sisters going through the ecclesiarchy section of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy is, of course, the church. This is, imagine a private army of the church, which is scary. And it is.
Yeah.
The Sisters are an extremely zealotous force, and they take this to a full extreme. They believe in three main things: faith, martyrdom, and fire. Through the
What?
bolter, the flamer, and the melta, the Sisters of Battle are extremely potent at taking out chaos and heretics. Mainly heretics, because as they are a fighting section of the ecclesiarchy church, that's the big thing they want to kill. Any form of heretic will face the Emperor's justice through those three main weapons: the bolter, the flamer, and the melta, and they will do so with extreme prejudice.
Damn.
Literally. They are the closest things we have to nuns in space, and I'm talking hardcore nuns. They carry holy fire on their backs. They have holy books and sigils all across their armor. Their main battle tank is a fucking pipe organ missile launcher.
That's
They have
awesome.
Small
That's
babies
awesome.
that they have removed their brain capacity to make them little servant cherubs to fly around and give them ammunition and shit. They drop churches from low orbit as mini drop pods onto battles. They drop churches into battles, and they blare war hymns and holy music from their frigates in low atmosphere and shower holy water across the battlefield.
Holy shit.
These are the people you
Holy
are
shit.
dealing with, and they're fucking awesome. They
Holy
can
shit, that's
literally
awesome.
stave off demons on the tabletop because their faith is that strong. Remember the warp, the demons from the warp? Well, the warp also manifests in your mind. All of your emotions, negative and positive, go through the warp. It's the immaterium, the place of all things. So if you are that mentally fortified, that mentally strong, you can stave off horrifying demons. And all these girls, not a crack. Not a crack
That's
in that
insane,
mental armor.
dude. That's
now,
insane.
as much as a meme as they are, and as much as their models look a lot like Ongo Gabloglian, yeah, which I can't unsee anymore. I gotta say, I love their design. I think they're extremely cool. They're another army that I'm currently collecting. They just released a whole new line of figures very recently, and they look wonderful. Everything from Celestine, the living, literally undying saint, from the triumph of Saint Catherine, which is literally a funeral procession as a model, those organ tanks I mentioned earlier. This shit is the most over-the-top badassery in a lot of the Warhammer universe, and goddamn it, is it over the top.
You don't fuck with the nuns,
Sisters of Battle
dude. Jesus.
are so cool. While I'm a guardsman at heart, this is such a cool faction. By Bolter Shell, Flamer Burst, and Melta Blast, the mutant, the heretic, and the traitor alike are cleansed of their sin of existence. So it has been for 5 millennia, so shall it be until the end of time. And speaking of burning demons,
I can see!
The Grey Knights.
the Grey Knights are the first army I actually collected back in 7th edition. The Grey Knights are a super secretive and much more old school look at power armored knights, except they are all psychers. All of them have that crazy space magic.
So why do you even
magician
need the
shit.
armor then?
For every 100,000 guardsmen, there's 1 Grey Knight. For every 10,000 Sisters of Battle, there's 1 Grey Knight. For every 1,000 Space Marines, there's 1 Grey Knight. Grey Knights are the strongest of the strong, both in mental will and absolute just strength. These are Space Marines that are all high-level psychers, all of them able to specifically do one goal, and that is kill demons. The Emperor believed that the demons of chaos were the #1 threat to the Imperium, and he probably is right. However, this group is entirely based on doing that through a myriad of tactics. Coming from the planet, or I guess the moon, of Titan in the Sol system, the Grey Knights are thrown through extremely rigorous training and are as clear of mind and soul as they possibly can be. Since the demons of the warp are the warp and your mind projects to the warp, people can go insane very fast, especially lower level psychers. These Grey Knights need to be able to harness the warp in the presence of demons and stay perfectly sane. One of their characters, one of my favorite characters, is named Castellan Crow. He has a demon blade, the black blade of Mahamahama, and he has to have it on him because it tempts everyone nearby, constantly beckoning them. Use my power, use my strength, suck my penis, whatever the possibility. And so he has to keep it on him all the time as this thing whispers to him consistently, and he has to stave it off forever, being alone in his chambers or on the battlefield, because anyone who gets too close to it might be tempted a little too hard. He is that pure of heart and mind, and all the characters in the Grey Knights are basically like that. The only issue is that the Grey Knights
very
have a
like double-edged sword
policy.
kind of thing, you know?
in
Like
more
very
ways than
powerful
one.
sword, also
If they're
tempted by
fighting
chaos.
demons corrupt and make people crazy. So if I'm a guardsman and I'm fighting demons, and the Grey Knights arrive, and they kill all the demons, I'm a risk. And so guess who's not making it out of there? On the tabletop, they're very strike fast, strike hard kind of people. They teleport all around the place. They are fast strike groups, small amounts of models because they're so dang strong. You only have so many characters, but with it, you get in there, you're very tough, very tanky, you hit really hard, and you try to bounce around the battlefield quickly, but you don't have numbers, and so every dead Grey Knight hits really damn hard. They're fun, though, if you like that kind of fast-striking kind of army. Oh, and also, Caldor Drago is a thing. We're not even going to get into Caldor Drago.
Dude, look at him.
Right, that is,
he's like part of the machine, like part of the...
I am the hammer. I am the mail about his fist. I am the spear in his hand. Though we are lost, I am the shield on his arm. I am the flight of his arrows. I am the hammer. I am the sword. I am the shield. I am a soldier at the battle at the end of time. Grey Knights are pretty hardcore. They are as holy as you can get for a Space Marine. If you like Space Marines and you want to, you don't think they're holy enough, you want to be holier, Grey Knights.
Grey Knights.
Now, if you want to be holier and big, let's talk Imperial Knights.
Yeah, talk to me about Imperial Knights.
Do you like gigantic walkers the size of homes or medium-sized buildings? Do you want to kill heretics, but you want to kill like 40 of them per turn? Do you want a
turn.
gigantic old school knight noble house style of walkers with giant chainsaw arms? Then you got Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights.
Yo,
I don't
that
wanna
sounds
talk about
awesome,
them
though.
Because they're just gigantic walkers, but they have this old school like house feel to them. Like literally, like they're houses. Each Imperial Knight comes from a house, and each of them act in their own special way. These behemoth of walkers also destroy almost everything in their path, killing full swaths of squads in a couple shots, stepping on legions of troops. Like, these things do not mess around, and they look so cool. Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, actually, for that matter, don't have a whole lot to discuss. They're just super big, heavy walkers, and they look different depending on your house or Chaos God you currently believe in. And overall, these things are just really cool if you want to murder everything in your path. They're the big, scary, big unit of Warhammer, and if you want to collect them, go to town. They make for a great painting project, too. Getting more back down to earth, let's talk something about a little bit different, a little more gold.
Gold.
If guardsmen are regular soldiers, space marines are super soldiers, Grey Knights are super soldiers, the Adeptus Custodes are super soldiers cubed. The Adeptus Custodes are the third major army I own. I know, 3 armies. I know, I got carried away, okay, but that's all. I only have 3, okay? They are our final brand of Space Marines, but these ones are super special, okay? If a guardsman is 6 foot, a Space Marine is 7 feet, a custodian is 8 feet. These are the giant defenders of Holy Terra, which is also Earth. Earth is Terra, Terra, themselves. These are the people that literally guard the Emperor's throne room, hence Custodes. These boys protect the Emperor's throne room at all times and are literally like handcrafted people. They're not humans brought up by a gene seer or something. These are all handcrafted super soldiers.
Oh, so they all have like specific
These behemoth of men are like 8 feet, 8.5 feet tall, and functionally immortal. They stand still, spear in hand, for hundreds of years without the need to sleep and barely even the need to eat, watching over the throne room and every other area of Holy Terra for their entire purpose in life. And oh my lord, are they terrifying. These custodians put Space Marines to shame. If you liked your super soldiers, these are your super mega soldiers. One of these men can take on probably 3 Space Marines and most likely win. There are many different groups of custodians as well, like the Solar Watch, or there's also one of my personal favorite, the Aquilan Shield. The Aquilan Shield go out to seemingly unimportant individuals and protect them because they believe that they are going to be doing something very important in their lives. For instance, let's say a regular guardsman gets the protection of this giant 8.5 foot tall golden god because that guardsman will end up becoming a general one day or something of that nature. The custodians work in mysterious ways and are almost always outnumbered but never outmatched. These people are pretty horrifying, both on the tabletop as well as in the lore. There are very few of them, however, and there's actually an extremely small amount of them, but that's kind of the point.
I mean,
there's
they're
only so many
handcrafted,
of these
right?
people that can have war gear this strong, weapons this powerful, and training this good. And the custodians have all 3 of it. For 100 years, I stood my watch amidst the somber shadows of the Sanctum Imperialis. I was still as a statue, but always ready, always attuned to dangers unseen. Days, months, years passed by in a frenzied blur beyond those walls, yet within, little moved and nothing changed. For 100 years, I did not but
That's
wait.
insane.
Yet
100
had any threat
years,
appeared,
dude.
I would have struck it down in a heartbeat. For 100 years, I stood my watch, and as it ends, I can tell you this: patience is a weapon. The custodians are the top dogs of the Imperium, and they hurt just that same way. Though I do want to discuss a little bit about the Sisters of Silence before we get out of here, because the Sisters of Silence I also have a few of, and they're really fun, but they don't get enough attention. These kind of bald plume ladies are a whole group of pariahs, are also known as blanks. We'll be referring to them as blanks from now on. So as every mind is somewhat connected to the warp, these blanks are a genetic mutation that has it suppressed heavily. Because of that mind suppression,
they just never get tempted by the
people
chaos
feel
then.
this weird, like, uncomfortable nature when around them. When a Sister of Silence walks past them, you feel ill. You feel just uncomfortable and strange. So most of them don't actually live past childhood, because once they are birthed, they're, well, you know, killed or something at a very young age, because they just emit a horrifying aura. These ladies, however, are guardians of the throne as well for more psychic threats. See, none of the custodians are psychers, so they have a difficult time dealing with major demons and other kinds of psychic phenomena. These sisters are extremely specialized in it, all of them taking a vow of silence as they don't speak.
So,
hence
to
term
combat
Sisters
the weakness
Silence,
of
but they
the
communicate through
custodians.
hand gestures and things of
Okay,
that nature.
okay.
But if there's a demon issue, if there's any kind of warp-based problem, the sisters are extremely adept at dealing with them, thanks to their blank gene. They normally work a lot of time with the custodians because they have to deal with both kinds of threats, but they're not represented that way on the tabletop. In fact, they only have like one real model for them, which is very unfortunate. I hope they'll get some like news soon, because I think they should really be working together as it is that way in the lore, but hopefully we'll get there soon. But if we're talking about blanks, let's talk assassins.
Yeah, tell me about assassins. Assassinorium?
It's been a long video. We're about to round it out. We got this and one more human thing, and then we're done. The assassins, though, the Officio Assassinorum, oh boy, these people are deadly. Yeah, they're called assassins. They should be, but oh man, these people will mess you up. So these are from the Officio Assassinorum, a very special organization, and they are handpicked by the Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum from the what was it called? Schola Progenium. It's basically an orphan school. Your parents got murdered by demons or something, you get sent to this and you get trained to be whatever. Tempestus Drop Troop, an Inquisitor, maybe even. Maybe you get a blank gene and you get thrown into the Sisters of Silence, or sometimes you just disappear. When you are taken, however, you go to one of 4 temples, because the Assassinorum works in the temple style of things. These temples are the Vindicare, Caluxus, Calidus, and Eversor temples. Let's start with the Vindicare. I'm far away. I've been sitting here for 3 weeks. Poof! The Vindicare temple is the main sniper-based temple. Gigantic sniper rifles for all these assassins. Their whole point is to be able to be in a spot and sit there, eye and scope.
Just patient
for
as fuck.
weeks,
That's
waiting
insane.
for their
That's
perfect
insane.
target, taking people out from
Wow.
literal miles away after extremely long time periods. The Vindicare Temple is about precise, perfect aim. There have been reports of Vindicares being able to single out particular body parts from over 2-3 miles away.
That's
Temples
crazy.
in the head, the jugular, for instance, and been sitting there after weeks. And when they're ready, take that shot, time is done, packs them up. The Calidus Temple, however, is a lot more about shape-shifting and deviant art. It's mostly a female-based one, or at least it seems to be, and this allows a lot of body augmentation for certain individuals to be able to kind of transmorph themselves and infiltrate areas that are problems. These assassins will end up taking missions that take them years, 2-3 years, to infiltrate a heretical group and slowly work their way up, just to get enough time to put a bullet into the main target's head and then escape unharmed. Or become the main target and sabotage it from within. These are all completely about deception, mind tricks, polymorphing, and everything in between. And lots of drawings. Lots of drawings.
Lots of drawings.
The Eversor Temple.
I'm not
Kinda
surprised.
Disturbing one. The Eversor Temple is about when you don't want anything to come back alive, friend or foe. You want it all dead. An Eversor is psychogenically conditioned with just psychotherapy and psychological torture to only feel violence, hatred, and anger. It does the Clockwork Orange style of thing of just making you forced to watch never-ending pain and misery and psycho conditioning, I guess is the term. And then they pump you full of tons of psychedelic drugs.
Dude, this
and
is
they cry
wild.
for
I
you.
had no idea
And they
40K went
drop
this
you
hard.
in an
Jesus.
area
What?
where They just want to make sure everything is dead. And then you defrost, full of just all this insane, mind-boggling psychotherapy and psychedelic drugs, and you just go to town. Yeah, if you don't care if anyone comes back alive. You're like, all right, lost cause, send them in. Finally, there's the most bizarre temple, the Caluxus Temple. The Caluxus assassins are feared even among the other temples. So that blank gene, the people will go to the Caluxus Temple with this as well. And this is where they can harness that to be massively anti-psyker or even just anti-regular people. They're seen with extreme fear and distrust among many, many people. They're described by the Eldar by quote as being pure evil. Imagine that uncomfortable feeling from that blank gene I mentioned, and then imagine them being taught and given equipment to amplify it by 100. If normally regular people feel uncomfortable, now they are basically akin to being a siren wailing directly in your ear. And if you're a psyker, what? Oh no, the sheer presence of a Caluxus assassin is enough for you to tear your skin off. You will rather gouge your eyes out and rip your nails off than even being near this person. The Caluxus assassin is when you want psychers to literally lose their minds, and they will go on their knees and ask you to gun them down because it is a suitable choice over being anywhere near you. The motto of that temple is, "That which is unknown and unseen commands the greatest fear." Now, for the tabletop, assassins
damn,
aren't that
I like the
special.
Cluxors.
You
Those
can
are
call
I
them
had no
in
idea.
no
That's
matter
crazy.
what Imperium faction you are, and they do a lot of work for themselves, but at the same time, they're very specialized and require a lot of finesse. And they work the way you generally want them to, though. You want to cause some distortion and weird stuff, you take a Calidus. You want to just murder swaths of infantry and then blow up Eversor. You want to kill that one guy, Vindicare, and if you have a lot of psychers, Caluxus. It's a nice little, like, jack of all trades if you have a specific thing you want to kill. And you get to choose which is really fun. But now, let's talk about the last human faction. We can round this video out before we do part 2, the Inquisition.
Okay,
We have
tell
a
me
lot
more.
to talk about with them.
On the subject of heresy!
Oh boy, where do I even begin with the Inquisition? Take every secret police you can think of. The KGB, the Gestapo, the CIA, FBI, any of these kinds of people. And then mark it up by about 10 and give them the most power in the entire Imperium. No, you know what? How about this?
What?
This right here, it's not just a quote. This is the Imperial motto, the motto of the Inquisition. I apologize for my bad pronunciation. Innocentia nihil probat. Innocence proves nothing.
What does that
The
mean?
most powerful organization in the Imperium, the secret police, their #1 motto is innocence proves nothing. The Inquisition goes around
yeah, so what
like
do
the
they,
secret police
if
or
they
like
don't
detectives
believe in
to find
people being
issues
innocent?
in the Imperium. And they have different ordos depending on which one we're talking about. The Ordo Hereticus, the Ordo Xenos, the Ordo Malleus, for instance, and a whole bunch of other ones. Hereticus is obvious, they deal with heretics. Xenos tries to find alien threats, and Malleus is demons. They all have different specializations in what they're trying to go for as this Inquisitor. And that's what they're called, Inquisitors. Each of them, as an Inquisitor, has their own free reign to do as they wish. They may have a ship and a crew, and they go out to find problems and interrogate people a lot. They are above the law in every department.
That's
over
scary.
Space Marines.
What?
Now, the Space Marines might argue against them and stuff, and there might be a lot of blowback, but technically they are above them as Inquisitors. They are looking to investigate and figure out coups and cults and demonic incursions and possible Xenos issues like gene stealers or a new threat coming into an area. They're about learning that stuff and actually doing detective work. And memes aside, they're pretty good at it. The Inquisition having all of this power does make them a little bit power hungry and frantic sometimes. And yes, it is still a bad thing, but most of them are pretty good at their job. And they spend a lot of time being very diligent to make sure that all of these leads they follow are proper and correct. They're basically space detectives with just enormous power.
That's
and
crazy.
sometimes a bit of a power complex. And we haven't even talked about Exterminatus yet. Exterminatus. Exterminatus is deeming a planet
What?
unfit to be saved. I deem that this planet is demon infested and taking it back will cost too many resources and is not worth it. I have now committed exterminatus on this planet. I will now sign the death warrant of an entire Imperium planet as it is unfit to take and better to be destroyed than allow the enemy to hold it. This can mean saturation bombardment. This can mean cracking the planet's core and breaking it apart. Doesn't matter. Render this planet inhospitable to all life. Yes, the innocents proves nothing people are the only people who can choose this planet must die in its entirety. Yeah,
wow.
You're playing the
They
villain.
can choose
Now it is memed a lot, but most Inquisitors are very rare to do Exterminatus. Exterminatus is a very crazy thing. There's only so many worlds that you don't want to destroy all of them. Now naturally, with the memes aside, there are some people who are a little bit rough on this one. But most Inquisitors generally don't like to do Exterminatus a ton, but it is an option they have. And it's a crazy option when you think about it. Secret Police Inquisition are unfortunately not represented on the tabletop very much. You generally kind of put one in your army if you feel like it. You have a couple special options there and some side content, but they're not really fleshed out very well, and personally they need a lot more stuff put in there, and they really need a lot more effort put into them, and they're not quite where I want them to be. Overall, the Inquisition makes for a lot of the best storytelling as well, because it's a little bit hard to talk about a big story of a whole bunch of Space Marines killing something, right? It's just a big battle story. It's not as interesting. Having that intrigue and that moral dilemma that an Inquisitor has makes for a lot better media. And honestly, the more people do it, I think it's better, because then it adds a little more humanity to the Warhammer horrible, horrible grimdarkness. And wow, we just finished the humans, all right? Come back for part 2 when we talk about Chaos and Xenos, because
hell yeah! I'm in it, Billy. I'm in it.
And all the Chaos Marine Legions and the Tau and the Necrons and the Orcs, and oh boy, we got a lot. I'll see you in part 2.
Hell yeah. All right, Billy. I'm going to go and stop walking now. Oh, jeez. This is your time. This is your sign, Billy. If you're still here watching this video, go do some squats. Go do like 10 squats, okay? I just walked 3 miles. You could do 10 squats. All right, Billy, we're back with some more. Let's go.
2 in a 2-part series on the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You can check that out in the description, and I would highly recommend you watch that to get context for this episode. If you already have, go ahead and keep on watching. So
keep on
after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about Chaos, which involves humans again, but a little bit less.
Tell me more about
demons
Chaos
and shit.
I just felt someone grab my ass.
What?
Like hard, Nick.
So, as I've mentioned many times before, we've discussed the warp, the immaterium, the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence. Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible. There are demons everywhere. Things are crazy. All your minds and thoughts and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of
everything,
time and
basically.
physics.
It's everything.
While
It's your imagination.
does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and a culmination of just unknowable, eldritch, horrifying shit. And there are 4 gods that permeate in Chaos and the Warp. These are the 4 major Chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about Chaos, we need to learn about each and every single one of these Chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne, and he is the easiest. Khorne is your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne? That's Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death, 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 death. That is Khorne. Very simple to understand. Next up, you have Tzeentch, and Tzeentch is the god of change. However, the god of change, it's permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods. He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming
weird.
and doing his best to cause as much
He's
little
just
bullshit
consuming.
as he can.
get
Zeech
it.
is unknowable. Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or fate is all foretold and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask Zeech a question. That question leads to 3 more questions, and those questions lead
I feel
to
like talking
the
to
heat
Zeech
death
would
of the
be a
universe,
very
which asks 4 answers
annoying
to those
conversation to
questions.
have with
and then
someone.
he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions, or are you simply giving paths to answers and other horse shit? Zeech is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and
I
he
love
is
how he's doing the camera
complexity.
here.
He is unknowable. And that's what the God of Change is about. Very bizarre. And he likes birds a lot. I don't know why. Next up, we got Papa Nurgle. Papa Nurgle, he loves you for who you are. Probably not. He will murder you just the same. But Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay. He is the end of everything. Him and Zeech do not like each other very much because where Zeech represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is
I mean, that
all
makes
about
sense if he's about
miasma
decay and pestilence,
and
yeah.
large bloat and pus and organs and people just being sedentary, sloth. He is the idea that everything will rot and decay and die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer never-ending decomposition. So the joke that Nurgle always loves you is generally because of that, because we all end up the same. We all rot, and we all die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course, pestilence and different kinds of diseases and sickness and things of that nature. That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well, and he chonk. Finally, we have the youngest of the Chaos Gods, and that is Slaanesh, also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable Excess. Slaanesh is generally referred to with sex, but it's not only sex, it's just that's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slaanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. See, we'll discuss Slaanesh a little bit more when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up, but it, or whatever, is mainly about just the excess of emotions. And therefore,
So
sex is
it's like a
generally a large
succubus,
part of it.
right?
However, it's mostly pain and
Like a
torture.
version, I guess, of
Lots
a succubus,
of pain,
not
torture,
actually
but
a
sometimes
succubus.
sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in pain and sadism and masochism. And of course, that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme, very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed nipples and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything, mainly pain and also the excessive amounts of emotion. So when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have things like spikes or whips or any kind of BDSM style gear because it is unspeakable excess, the Prince of Pleasure, everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes.
Ow.
But as we
I
talk
didn't
more about the
fall.
Dark Eldar later in this video, you'll understand it far, far better and far more than you'd want to. Now you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos? They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things, right? Well, the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the Immaterium, so you can be easily swayed by Chaos demons when they get into your head, especially if you're a psyker. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or, say, low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed by this and become Chaos cultists and stuff, and they serve their dark gods and whatever god they personally refer. However, and this might seem strange, Chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil. See,
Okay.
the warp is
No, it's not.
manifestation
It's just-
of emotion and being,
Yeah.
every soul, everything of existence. This includes all the good things.
It's just if
All
you like the
different
warp, you're a
chaos
heretic!
gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you. Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mano, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard right now. It may not be a good thing at the end of the day, but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Zeech generally don't get along because Zeech is that conniving schemer, but he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament. There is change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want, the changer of ways. That is Zeech. And of course, Zeech and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality. An ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will end. Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same. We know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to live and die and rot. And with that, it brings peace of mind. Slaanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the representation of emotion.
Makes sense.
Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, bam style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and air on your cheek and sunlight, the feeling, emotion and feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. So you have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts, even if we don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares?
Yeah,
I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at him. So cool. So combining all this together, on the tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee-based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys. Demons are as they seem. Demons. Nurgle is slow, Khorne is super scary in melee, you've got Zeech who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slaanesh who is all melee, really fast but squishy, but in lots of hordes of tons of melee and
yeah,
pain
so that makes
damage,
sense. They overwhelm them with numbers.
So overall, the demons
crazy
are
what's the
a
speed when they are actually
huge part of
close up.
40K and a massive threat to almost every single faction with the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we didn't talk about, which are the Chaos Space Marines. So Horse and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Angels of Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor, generally the same training and toughness. They just specialize in different kinds of things. And
like
also
what?
a lot of the Primarchs have ascended into greater is it greater demons? They're demon Primarchs at this point. Gigantic, horrifying man-demon hybrids that are pretty awesome, if I'm gonna be honest. They look really cool.
Dude, those
but
look awesome.
them and their associated legions that they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the
Wonderful.
raw
That's nice of
strength
them.
and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrifying. There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down, but you've got got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slanesh. These people, they are some messed up people. They're just sensory overload, tons of drugs, tons of torture. And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now, and oh god, I am terrified to see what that man looks like, at least on the tabletop, because the Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which are kind of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're Chaos Undivided.
Dude, he looks
They
awesome.
kind of serve Chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the four. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists and a major rival. Perturabo, I believe, is also still alive, and I'm also very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terrorizing people and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and rightly so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron, still alive, also excited to see. Angron, if you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry, so he could be angrier.
Wait,
Angron,
what?
fucker's
He could
mad.
be angrier?
You've got the Death Guard with Primarch Mortarion. They actually have their own special codex and their own major.
Hold on. I gotta wrap my mind around that. My man's. He had himself augmented to make it so he gets angrier. That's a hell of an upgrade, dude. He probably had like a
Army
rampage
on
skill or
tabletop.
berserk or something.
Mortarion himself is actually one of the models, and look at him. Look at him. It's so cool looking. Of course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow, but very tanky. You've got the Word Bearers with Primarch Lorgar. Lorgar is, I believe, still alive. I don't know what's up with him at the current moment, but the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning. At least I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon.
Get fucked, nerd.
Chaos, I think. And then finally, you've got the Thousand Sons with Primarch Magnus the Nerd. The Thousand Sons also have their own book, just like the Death Guard. Magnus is also a tabletop model.
They have their own
he looks
book?
super cool,
What?
as you can tell. And they're all super heavily Psyker and kind of Egyptian themed. They look pretty neat. But overall, with all of these Chaos Space Marine factions, you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Sons, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more.
Dude, that's
As
wild.
hardcore
That's
as that
wild.
quote is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines, a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp. Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp.
That is true.
And depending on
You
how
can't
hard
escape
you
it.
killed them, they will come back at some point. Every demon you banish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable. The warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow, the resources to do so, the requirements to do so, are so far beyond the reaches of man and the other races at the current moment that really it's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming and is just barely being slowed. Chaos is by far the biggest threat. They are without number, their legions are everywhere, and they're pretty scary.
Yeah, he's not
So,
wrong.
I
He's not
promise,
wrong.
we're
Okay.
done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
Yeah! Well, I don't know if I should be saying yeah.
So let's talk about the Eldar, also known as the Eldari, which are a super hyper-specialized and very technologically advanced race of, well, elf
All I
people.
know is I just had
They
that
were as
sniper
well
lady on my team.
responsible for
Okay.
the creation of Slanesh.
And she was awesome until I
the
betrayed
newest
her.
demon
And that was
god. How'd they do that? Debauchery on
Misunderstanding,
a world-ending
betrayal.
scale. See, back in the day, it was just
Back to
Khorne, Tzeentch, and
re-understanding?
Nurgle. And the Eldar are very, very ancient, millions of years. These Eldar, however, have a bit of a sensory problem. You know, every kind of pain or feeling that you have is a little bit amplified compared to the normal. However, with Eldar, as their race advanced so excessively, and they became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy, there was no requirement for food production anymore. There was no shortages. Everything
They're
was
just
basically
enlightened
done.
at this point, I
Everyone was
guess?
so comfortable, and that comfort breeded this weird sedation, and that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more debauchery.
Debauchery!
When everything you have can be so easily acquired, you will end up down this road of pure debauchery. All of the senses the Eldar had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good, all needed to be satisfied and satiated. And the desire to satiate these senses grew more and more with worse and worse debauchery. It started off with things like sex and drugs.
His legs are
becoming so much
debauchery
more
right now.
rampant because these are the first things you generally turn to when requirements for living are so easily accessible. It would get to the point that made Sander Cohen in BioShock look sane. All right, this is the kind of debauchery it led to. It was constantly satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only elevated and elevated, and this was species-wide. People started going down darker, more depraved, and more violent paths as time went on. However, some people didn't entirely take to that. Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become and said, no thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craft World Eldar. They left on these giant continent-sized starships called Craft Worlds. They believed in learning the old ways of the Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer reaches of space. They even had this thing called the Webway. Remember what we mentioned about warp travel with the Imperium? Well, the Eldar had something way safer called a Webway. And the Eldar Webway is actually like a pocket dimension kind of thing.
Wait,
and
so
in that
it's-
pocket
what?
dimension,
What?
there were also more horrible, depraved groups and clans
Yeah, a
that would
whole
spend
ass
their time in
frickin'
there. And if you imagine
community.
debauchery was bad already, these were debauchery X10. So all of this continued, and it bloated until Slanesh just burst forth. All that emotion, all that mental, well, thought processes, I suppose, all of this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot, all their souls as well, into the warp. All of this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom! Slanesh was birthed and killed off 90% of the entire Eldar population.
Whoa!
Untold trillions had their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slanesh demons. The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive and their souls consumed to the Prince of Pleasure. All of them
That's crazy.
got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally
That's so many-
ripped a warp hole into the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia. And it is horrifying. So this Slanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts by the Eldar, slaughtered the entire population except for a couple. Those in the craft worlds were actually not affected by this, as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack, that birth of Slaanesh, only affected the ones in the center. So these craft world Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights on them. Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh, craft world or not. What about those people in the webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just...
Wait. What? You're talking about Slaanesh.
Into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh, craft world or not. What about those people in the webway? Well, imagine that giant birth happening, but they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh was just barely able to hold on. These people are the Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari.
Oh,
the Eldar
yeah, I've met the
population
Drukhari.
right now is so massively small. It is minuscule compared to any of the other most of the other populations in the universe. The Eldar are consistently having issues trying to get their population up, because as their souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red moon's eye. The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall.
Holy crap.
Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Crone worlds, a conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Mon-Kai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Mon-Kai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. And now let's talk about cute plastic models.
Bro, I'm straight up not having a good time.
The first playable race we have for the Eldar are the Craft World Eldar and living in those Craft World starships I mentioned earlier. And each of them have their own kind of Craft World, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each Craft World is in itself its own special kind of group. And the Eldar themselves are very fast and rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy, a bit weak, but they're very in tune as psychers. Tons of psychers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and abilities are fast and extremely hard-hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an Eldar's brain is an exercise in futility. They are all over the place in confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale. They fight weird, they think weirder, and Eldar in their own right really rely on this to keep their species alive. They need to think about deception and the strangeness of what they do if they truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale thanks to their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold millions upon millions of people. And as they continually, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand, losing a few people in battle, while hurts a lot, they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. They're still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies, but they are definitely doing a little bit better than they were before.
They're making
Eldar
progress.
Are fast, cunning, and what they don't make up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry. They also call humans Mon-Kai, which is something I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Mon-Kai.
That is a derogatory slur for humans in the Warhammer world. Why is it called Mon-Kai? Well, it's because you can't, in your game, call people monkeys. On the tabletop, exactly what I said. Not very tanky, generally pretty squishy, hit like trucks, and move at Mach 5. Fast, hit
You know what
hard,
though? That all
die
holds
fast.
true in Rogue Trader because
Exactly how
like
it
she just
sounds. They've been good
zooms
for a
across
very
the
long
area.
time too. We bring only death and leave only carry on. It is a message even a human can understand. Eldar. So, Drukhari. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar.
On today's episode of How Fucked Up Is Fucked Up. That's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the webway, in the super deranged cults and the depraved people of the Eldar, in the webway they didn't quite get a hold onto them. Slaanesh like has them, but it has them on like by the pinky finger. And they're
Okay.
slowly being consumed by Slaanesh, but they found out they can stave her off by doing Slaanesh things. The Dark Eldar are by far the worst, most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40K. These are entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years.
Jesus.
Because that torture will keep them from dying. They look very BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky bits and they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them. But example, let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen, living life on a regular planet. You get invaded by the Necrons. The Necrons will shoot you with a deatomizer, and you will be destroyed in a millisecond, and that's it. Not the worst way to go. You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something. You take a bolter shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach, and you
Which
get
is
cut
common.
in half. Painful, but not the worst. The orcs arrive. They beat you to death. Hurts, but, whatever. Tyranids, they eat you alive. It's pretty rough. The Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar. This is going to get a little graphic. I apologize. You pray you die. You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave. Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them. They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will
What the
inject
fuck? Really?
pain-based stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin. They will fillet you and pull out your teeth and your fingernails one by one. They will remove your appendages and your skin and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture and use the R word, it rhymes with grape, your entire
Jesus.
family in front of you and do the exact same thing to them. You yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere possible. And this will occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them. And then you will be contorted, crushed, and twisted into some form of trophy, a fleshy trophy, or a ring, or a couch, or a TV stand, or perhaps a
wanna be a
wonderful
TV
hat,
stand.
while you are, of course, still alive and breathing. And you will become a moaning, fleshy trophy for eternity.
Ew.
And that is what happens when you are taken by the Dark Eldar.
Yeah,
They
I
are
don't
the
wanna
most
be
depraved,
that.
most horrifying race in all of 40K. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh's grip will get harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this, Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit
you
up.
keep it
you
going.
elf-eared bastards." That's the Dark Eldar. That's the Drukhari. They are horrible. On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are even squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks, skirmishers, really quick, speedy, get around them, do a lot of damage, get away kind of stuff. That's most of the Dark Eldar. Look up the definition of grim dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar. And Sev from Republic Commando. A quote from Mr. Vecht. "We are the lords of despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed."
Plentiful.
Dark Eldar. Let's talk about the Harlequins. Clowns.
What's the matter, Andy? Don't you want to
Wait, there's Harlequins?
The Harlequins are a bizarre race of Eldar.
What?
They're demonic clown performers. They're like a weird mix of Sander Cohen from BioShock and Jin from League of Legends, but in a more clown theme. They're artists of death and perfecters of their craft. They do not belong to Craft Worlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this giant tome of never-ending knowledge deep in the heart of the Eldar Webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is the laughing god, but it's the Eldar's laughing god? And these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns, okay? So imagine the things that an Eldar, these depraved individuals, would find funny. And this is the god of that. It's a horror clown. These are gods of horror for us normal people. For them, they're like, oh, it's so funny. They're all dying horribly. Honk, honk. They're very bizarre and difficult to describe. They've escaped the ruinous powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is guarding that Black Library, and the Harlequins just...
What are they guarding the library
They're
from,
demon clown performers. They're barely any models on the tabletop. They're good in melee. They're demon clowns. I'm not
demon
sure. I got a
clowns.
quote. It is too easy for an Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar mind, all life is to be expended at a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed just as easily as in song. To an unfettered Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum.
Jesus.
They're very strange. The Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an anomaly that make humans seem completely easy to understand in comparison. They
wild.
range from rekindling their civilization to horrifying murder and also clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent quite well and are rather interesting, especially with the whole Slaanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah, Eldar. Now,
Eldar.
bugs.
Ma, they following me, Ma. They following
Oh, the Tyranids. I finally get to learn about them since apparently I don't know shit about them.
The Tyranids. Now, you want to talk something a little more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans? Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were.
Wait, really?
Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y, those Marines,
What?
huh?
Really?
That's a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40K because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to nom nom the entire galaxy. They hangry and we food.
They want to
Also, this
nom the
Tyranid
entire
hive
galaxy.
mind has a presence in the warp.
I fucking
In fact,
hate those
Tyranids
things.
in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormigons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio-Titan.
Look at that thing, dude! Oh my god!
They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material.
He's like
keep feeding them, they'll keep
praying
evolving.
mantis.
They keep on creating new horrifying organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you want to know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is? We might be surrounded. There have been around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets, Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets, and they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through. And that is horrifying, because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. Oh, I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters, the Swarm Lord, Old One Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Gene Stealer cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Gene Stealer cults
Gene
are a special
Stealer
brand of
cults?
Tyranid
What?
that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords and I think they're called patriarchs all can turn
is that its
entire
tongue?
world,
What the fuck is that?
all based into Gene Stealers. And these are called Gene Stealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants to the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're
really?
up there,
Gene
though,
Stealers are.
Because you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey. Tyranids, they're cool. But are they as cool as the orcs?
Every screen's gone red. That means I'm super fast.
Orcs, 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 orcs. Orcs.
Orcs.
Fucking love
Orcs, 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 orcs,
So,
orcs.
Yes,
Orcs.
The green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40K. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old
I don't
teeth,
think I've
and
ever
they want
fought
to kill
against
everything,
orcs.
and there are so
But actually,
many
I take it back. I've done
them.
that, yeah.
The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc. Big orc knows best. You
Big
win with
orc
power
knows
of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent which
No
is
way.
just hilarious to
No
me.
way.
Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to
He's just
wage
got a
war. You
rocket
got
on
your
him.
boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs, and then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead. Orcs, they scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh, yeah.
So he straight up runs on
did do
hopes and
that.
dreams?
And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Krorks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids. Maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely
They're just firing
relief.
them out of cannons?
Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up.
That's wild.
That's orcs.
That's
and on the
wild.
Tabletop,
I can kind of get behind the orcs though.
And they're
I've been
really
liking
fun.
a lot of these factions,
I have never
but orcs
met
are
a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space
I think
Marines,
I might be playing
pretty good.
orcs,
They
dude.
hit on
That
a
sounds
3 or
awesome.
higher because they're well trained.
I'm in it for the
Adeptus
RNG,
Custodians,
baby.
They hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything, from the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly.
That's
but
awesome.
the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip. Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun, and you want to be stupid, and you want to be silly, you're going to play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons. The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, but because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron-tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings, and they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways.
Show us the ways.
And the Old Ones said,
Billy, show me
piss
the
off. Not really.
Wait, what?
They were a lot
No
more
way.
humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war.
Interesting.
Because during this War in Heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These Star Gods were also very much like Old Ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek.
Okay.
So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons.
What?
As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh
betrayal
and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these Old Ones. The Old Ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari and the Orcs, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the Old Ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed. Full-on 100% genocide. However, during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences, doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're gonna eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them, because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, They realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Krorks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back and they see all these primitive races on their lawns and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with.
How do you use that?
The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40K. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trey's in the Infinite especially, a little
Mr.
dickhead.
Steal your girl.
But speaking of dickheads, last race, let's talk the Tau.
We made a fucking Wookiee.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40K world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones.
Avatar?
Nah. Dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil.
No.
This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40K universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models.
I mean, yeah, 100%.
Tabletop,
after watching this video, I want to play orcs.
Time is what you think is
That's what I want. I want orcs
because
all day.
Things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting. Every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, is anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time.
Yeah,
Thank
anytime I've played a Warhammer game, I've had a good time.
If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, we have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams.
Hey, y'all go support
you have
Bricky.
my merchandise site in which I was wearing all of my
that cool merch
underneath this because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description.
Yeah.
Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon.
All right, Billy. We got one more video left. I managed to walk 2.5 miles. I want 10 squats from you this time. Again, I want 10 squats. Let's go.
Dark Angels. Allegiance? Loyal. Primarch Lion L. Johnson. A duelist. A knight. A real asshole, I'm not gonna lie. The single word descriptor?
What?
Paranoid. The Dark Angels are our first legion, hailing from the death world known as Caliban. Their Primarch, Lion L. Johnson, is what happens when you try to make the side profile Chad meme into a genuine character. He is a master tier duelist, a brilliant strategist, and an overall dick. There are few situations
I guess when you're that good, though, like,
fights he isn't ready to lead head on. This makes the Dark Angels have a very Knights of the Round Table vibe. They look like the knights of old with these large suits of power armor, often donning robes and hoods. Their names also follow this. They have like Ezekiel, Azrael, Belial, Samuel, and so on. However, the common thing associated with Dark Angels are the Fallen, a part of their faction that turned traitor against the Imperium, and they are very heavily trying to expunge all knowledge of them from existence. Fallen? What Fallen? I've never heard of any Fallen. Do you know about the Fallen? We're gonna take you away and mind probe you to make sure you have never heard of the Fallen. They definitely don't exist, and if they do exist, which they don't, we will find them even though they don't exist. They love their interrogations. They thrive in it. Lionel Johnson is a scorched earth policy sometimes, and it's given to his sons in force, which makes sense considering that when the Lion heard of a Chaos Primarch on a homeworld different Primarch, whose mom was there, he was like, Let's nuke it. The Dark Angels are a special group where they formulate themselves into 3 different factions. The Deathwing Terminators, slow-moving, tough phalanx. The Raven Wing, fast jet bikes and flyers. And the Green Wing, which is your standard Marines. They are a jack of all trades, but not in the sense where they're good at everything, but rather they have a lot of things that are good at specific things. Like instead of 20 people that have a multi-tool, they instead have 20 people with gigantic power tools for every job imaginable. If you like being suspicious about everyone and everything in your surroundings, but you also like to have a whole lot of deep knight type lore, run the Dark Angels.
The One Piece.
Run the Dark Angels.
The One Piece is real.
Our second Legion is a special one.
Is it? I feel like drama is coming.
If you can see, the numbers all go.
Wait. What happened? What happened to the second Legion? What do you mean? We went from first Legion to the third Legion. What happened to the second Legion?
Allegiance,
what?
Traitor. Primarch, Fulgrim, a perfectionist, an artist, a sneaky snake. And the single word descriptor, perfection. The Emperor's children are all about the pursuit of perfection. Perfection in all they do. Perfection in war, in artistry, and perfection in every other aspect of life. Their armor is a gleaming pink, purple, and gold. Their ships have spires of gorgeous marble and gold statues.
They have cities built on their ships, bro.
Fulgrim is a man who believes the pursuit of perfection is the goal of all things. And I mean, look at him. Can you truly tell me that he is not perfect? The hair, the features. As Primarchs go, he is the one you look at, and if 40K had a guy that would give you the best sex you've ever had and never call you back, this is the fucking guy. Which is why this pursuit of decadence led them to the evils of chaos. Yes, Emperor's children are our first Chaos Legion, and not just a normal one devoted to, you guessed it, Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure, god of unspeakable excess. The Emperor's children in their pursuit are now horrifyingly mutated beings through Slaanesh's great will. They torture and maim to feel perfection through pain. They screech and attack with sonic weaponry for perfection through sound, and they slaughter, aiming for perfection in war. Fulgrim himself lost the battle against Slaanesh as a demon sword corrupted his mind and transformed him into the sexy man he was, into the sexy snake he is now. A demon Primarch, corrupted and bringing his legions
wait. Is that around the same, like, I can't think of who had the they had like a demon sword, but they had to like live in solitude. I can't think of their name. But like, is that kind of along the same lines? Like, if Mans actually gave into the corruption, he would become a snake person?
Himself. As far as Emperor's children go, they are some bad people. They do horrible things to anyone and everything. In fact, they're such trolls that their battle cry is for the Emperor, despite being horribly mutated and corrupted. If you've ever taken a little too much of a drug, or maybe the music at the concert was too loud and you didn't bring any earplugs, or whatever the reason, you just take all those things and you dial it and you dial it and you twist it and the knob breaks. And that is the Emperor's children.
God is dead.
Okay, that was quick.
Dead, and we have killed him.
The Iron Warriors. Allegiance, traitor. Primarch, Perturabo, a warlord, a siege smith, an incel. Single word descriptor, siege. Continuing the trend of our Chaos Legions, we have the Iron Warriors led by Primarch Perturabo of Olympia. To understand the Iron Warriors, though, one must first understand Perturabo. A man so bitter, coffee beans run for light. A man who hates the world and everyone in it, who never got recognition for his deeds, who hates his brothers and hates their accomplishments even more. Someone so laughably petty, so incredibly bitter that he goes full circle to becoming likable. Why? Because he's competent. The Horus Heresy. We didn't talk about the Horus Heresy. Intermission.
Horus Heresy.
So Horus was the Emperor's favorite son, right? You know, so the Emperor walked into his room. Horus said, Dad, I just gifted 150 subs to Amaranth, and she said my name a ton, and she loved me for it. I really think that I might get to meet her one day. And it kind of played out something like this.
Your feelings for her are not real. They are real to me!
And then it started playing out a little bit more like this.
Let the seas boil.
What the fuck happened? What is going on? All over Amaranth? That's all this was?
Drop all my blood.
Yeah. So Iron Warriors, the Horus Heresy wouldn't have gotten shit done without Peter Turbo. Imagine an entire faction that is the personification of brutal industrialism, where you serve the Legion until your dying breath. You build and you kill and you siege and you kill and you literally summon demons just to take them and trap them in machines and use them as cannon fodder. This is a thing they do. They summon demons to trap and use as shock troops. The Iron Warriors are siege warfare incarnate. They are heavy weapons, they are tanks, they are turrets, and they don't die. They hate Imperials, they hate Imperial fists.
Do you need a pacifier, Iron Baby? No! No, I don't!
They are bitter incarnate. Perturabo and the Iron Warriors don't serve the Chaos Gods because they like them. They serve them because fuck you.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Not another speeding ticket. I'll fight it in court, but I don't think they're gonna accept gotta go fast as a medical condition.
We're
The
moving
White
quick.
Scars.
We're moving very
Allegiance,
quick.
Loyalist. Primarch, Jagatai Khan, a speed demon, a plane strider,
I feel like this is like a play on Genghis
Single
Khan.
word descriptor, speed. Hailing from Chagoris. The White Scars are all about speed. They love melee, but they love it even more when they are doing it from a motorcycle or land speeder. Or
This is
honestly,
like
just
Akira,
running
basically.
really damn fast. The White Scars are honestly forgotten about a lot, and that's lore accurate. They are a legion that doesn't seek the recognition or glory from the combat they engage in. They engage in it because it is their duty and because they love it. Not in the insane slaughter enjoyment of loving it, but in the thrill of the fight. They are known as the Laughing Killers because they ride into battle with a smile on their face and a chuckle in their throat. And as you can tell by their Primarch's name, they are Mongolian based. Remove horses and replace them with motorcycles and land spears, and that's your style. They are heavily based on the old times of Genghis Khan, and consider this is 40K and everybody's evil. You know, that fits. The White Scars are actually physical scars on their body, going back to their heritage on Chagoris. The Khan himself is kind of a dickhead, but a reasonable one. He thinks ahead, he's intelligent, he's patient. He is often underestimated because he doesn't scream his accomplishments from the rooftops, which is what makes him and the White Scars dangerous. His skills are kept at bay, only to be truly shown when the time is needed. The White Scars are a forgotten legion often, but that doesn't diminish
feel like
their
that's just like,
accomplishments. All it
yeah,
does
they could
surprise
totally
those
fuck some
who
shit up if that's the
underestimate
case.
them. Speed, awesome Mongolian vibe they got going on, and if you really like to stab people, that's the White Scars for you. Shameless thirst break.
This is dog. Woof, 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 woof.
Space Wolves. The Space Wolves. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Leman Russ. A Viking, a Savage, the Undertaker. Single word descriptor.
Yeah. Didn't he pass away? Rip the Undertaker.
There's so many
If
goddamn
not, I feel
wolf
bad,
units.
but like, rip the
Skater,
Undertaker. So.
how many units in the Space Wolves Codex have the word wolf in their name?
13 units.
The Space Wolves are the 6th Legion and hail from Fenris, a frozen wasteland of a world with their Primarch, Leman Russ. I don't really need to spend a whole lot of time talking about the Space Wolves because it's very obvious who they are. They are the second most obvious what their shtick is legion in the 20 legions besides the World Eaters. When you look at the Space Wolves behind, what do you see? Do you see Vikings in space? You've done it. Congratulations, you have found Vikings in space. But they have as much in common with a regular Marine as an old-day Viking with like a Roman soldier. You see, as a Space Marine, your body is so enhanced that you filter out poison, and so you can't get drunk. The Space Wolves distill a special mead out of a horrible poisonous plant that would kill a normal human so they could get drunk. They have fangs in their mouths. They sometimes cannibalize their enemies. Sometimes they eat people because they gain knowledge about them from there and about battle plans. The Space Wolves are savages. They're
like,
raiders.
is it just any
They're
piece of body?
Vikings.
Like, can they
But
just like take a
despite
bite off
all
the
of
arm, or
this,
do they gotta eat like the
loyal
brain?
to their core. Leman Russ is an egotistical guy who just shouts stories and tales of his accomplishments everywhere they can. But at the same time, he was so damn loyal that instead of gunning down his foes, he hit him with a fucking backbreaker. To
DDT,
show his devotion,
baby!
his devotion to wrestling. If you want Vikings in space, you found it. Play the Vikings in space.
We're gonna build the wall. We have no choice. We have no choice. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
The Imperial Fists. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Rogel Dorn, a builder, a phalanx, and he needs a hand. Single word descriptor, fortify. The Imperial Fists are led by Primarch Rogel Dorn, their homeworld of Inuit. However, they themselves are actually a fleet-based chapter, with their main source of recruitment coming from an enormous moon-sized ship called the Phalanx. The Fists are a chapter you think of when you think of duty. They love to serve. The love to serve and the inability to be moved. Rogel Dorn is an architect, a master builder, and basically a rock in brain and body. A lack of humor or ability to lie shows that he is as blunt as the weapons of war he creates. Not the swords he makes, but like blunt, strong weapons. The Fists are the same. Take your archetypical American Marine style look, a buzz cut, a hard sense of duty, and then throw in some power armor and a love for building defenses, and you have the Imperial Fists. They are immovable. When you find a spot, they're ready to defend. You can't breach them. Their knowledge of defensive warfare is paramount. Without them, the Horus Heresy would have been so much more effective, but thanks to their insane and immovable tenacity, the Imperium lives today. And let's not forget that Iron Warrior and Imperial Fist rivalry. Want to know why the Iron Warriors are so bitter? These guys are the reason why.
These guys, bring the thing! Where is he going?
Wait, is this like an animated thing? Like... What?
Hey! Hey, that could have killed me! Hey, guys! We missed!
We missed!
Get another!
Dorn and Pachiravo are basically two sides of the same coin. One is just a bit more level-headed and got better jobs. If you want to be defensive, to be good at everything Space Marines are good at, bolters, heavy weapons, vehicles, you want a classic military fighting force, start fisting.
I am having a very bad day. Today is one of the worst days.
Oh boy. Oh boy, here we go. The Night Lords. Allegiance,
they look like vampires.
Heretic. Primarch Conrad Kurz, a sadist, a vigilante, depresso espresso. Single word, fear. The Night Lords are my favorite legion, hailing from Nostromo and their Primarch Conrad Kurz. They are a traitor legion from a planet known as the Sunless World, or the World of Endless Night. Nostromo is a horrible hive city that is known for being host to some of the worst gang violence, murder, and working conditions around. The only thing keeping the population in check is the suicide rate. The Night Lords followed in the footsteps of their Primarch, a man who believed in a twisted sense of justice and that the only way to make humans compliant is through fear. The Legion's lesson has been lost on them, as their ranks were repopulated by gang members, murderers, arsonists, torturers, and other words I can't say on YouTube, as young as 12 years old. Murderers before they were even teenagers, raised to become demigods. Now, fear is what they sow and flesh is what they reap. The Night Lords are scum. They are the exact opposite of all other legions. They torture and they maim and they flay because they think it's fun. They run away often so they can come back and kill you with more numbers. They prey on the innocent and the weak. They kill normal civilians because it's easy and flee any battle where they don't possess overwhelming odds. They are the antithesis of normal Space Marines. They are scum. One time, a world did not comply to their demands, so they raided one of their ships and brought it into atmosphere. The crowds cheered and clapped as it appears that they had won the battle, and the airlocks opened and the skinned and flayed bodies of the crew were thrown down in the populace. In other words, a legion of gangers and criminals. Add together a heavy Slavic influence to them, and you've got my favorite faction.
You have not done the dishes for 5 years. So embarrassed when people come over here.
What does it matter? You bring them over, you kill them. Vampires don't do dishes.
The Blood Angels. Allegiance, loyal. Primarch, sanguineous. An angel, a vampire, a dead-ass motherfucker.
So the other people weren't vampires?
Descriptor, blood. The Blood Angels are 9th Legion, hailing from the homeworld of Baal with their Primarch Sanguinius. The Blood Angels are a tragic tale with one of the best Primarchs, one beloved by almost everybody, a genuine angelic figure who led his people to glory, killed by the hands of the traitor Horus before the Emperor's eyes. The death of their Primarch led the entire Legion to madness as their gene seed malfunctioned and created something known as the Black Rage. The Blood Angels degrade over time, experiencing something called the Red Thirst, which gives them a genuine vampiric thirst for blood. As their minds degrade and break down, they get angrier and angrier, becoming berserk killing machines with no other goal than to tear everything in sight apart. But they don't see it as that.
Really,
they
blood
see
rage.
themselves there, at their Primarch's demise, with Horus in sight. And to them, it's time for vengeance. That Space Marine over there, that Chaos Space Marine, that's Horus. Kill him. That Orc War Boss over there, Horus. Kill him. That Tyranid Swarm, 1,000 Horuses. Horai. Kill them all. Did your toast come out a little bit burnt? Horus sabotaged your toaster. Destroy the toaster. Destroy it. Do it. Do it.
Destroy the toaster.
Do it. This slow, debilitating disease takes over the Blood Angels and it gives them this angelic, vampire, and Catholic-inspired imagery. They have chalices of blood. They rest in coffins and can even use psychic powers to sprout angel wings from their bodies. They are a tragedy through and through, and the only thing that will look more tragic are the mangled bodies of those they come in contact with.
I got a diesel engine.
Okay.
And honey, we forgot to mention.
Don't mess with them. Got it.
Take your job away.
The Iron Hands. Allegiance, loyalist. Primarch, Ferrus Manus, a machinist, an inventor, and not a great head on his shoulders. Single word, bionics. Bionic! The Iron Hands are from the home planet of Medusa and their Primarch, Ferrus Manus. Does Ferrus Manus have an iron hand? You fucking know he's got an iron hand. The Iron Hands believe that the flesh is weakness. But despite all of their enhancements, despite all the things that made them demigods, replacing some of the flesh with bionics will allow them to serve the Emperor more. They go hard into vehicles and dreadnoughts.
So
Dreadnoughts being giant walking
cool
sarcophagi that have wounded space marines piloting them from the inside. Vehicles, metal upgrades. These are the things that make up this legion. Their tech marines have servo arms sticking out from all directions. They have a wide array of mechanics and extremely often replace limbs with metal ones, serving all kinds of different functions to deal with their enemies. The Iron Hands are also not particularly nice. They're kind of assholes. I mean, Marines are already normally pretty big assholes, but they're a little bit up there because of their flesh, civilians made of flesh, because you see, the flesh is weak. Flesh is corruptible. Bionics, the strength of the machine is
just the Omnicide at that
pure and cannot so easily be corrupted. So if you want people who have this little techno-fetishistic vibe to them, that love their vehicles and their walking coffins, hit up the Iron Hands.
Understand, Commander, I was never here.
Legion 11.
What about a Legion 11?
Why, hello there. I have returned from touching grass. I know. I'm pretty cool.
Okay.
With the grass touching him. Now let's continue our Warhammer lecture.
This ruffles my
Wait, what about the other guy?
Okay, so what's going on here?
Why would they? Have they? I'm assuming that they've been eliminated by another Marine Corps,
Primarch Angron, a butcher, a slaughterer.
Like extremely, earth-shatteringly, unreasonably fuck-ass mad.
Single word descriptor, anger. Hey you! Yeah, you! Are you mad? Do you just fucking hate everything? Do you want to murder everything in sight and get rewarded for doing so? Then you should join the World Eaters, home planet of Nuceria, and Primarch Angron, who, if the name didn't suggest, is real fucking angry. Angron was raised a slave, forced to fight in gladiator pits. When he refused, they shoved old world tech into his brain so that if he ever felt any emotion other than anger, it caused him extreme pain. All his sons, wanting to be like their dad, also put a version of these nails in their brain. So now you have an entire legion who literally feel unimaginable pain if they are feeling any emotion other than anger. Slap them with a freight train of armor, 2 goddamn chainsaw axes, and you can see what's gonna happen. It's no wonder they're corrupted by Khorne. They're honestly a surprisingly sad legion that I actually screwed up in assuming that they were all just angry murderers. I mean, they are, but they didn't start out that way. Their Khorne corruption degraded their intelligence, their free will, and made powerful warriors into arguably even more powerful warriors, but blunt, like frothing at the mouth psycho warriors. The World Eaters, like I mentioned in the Space Wolves, they wear their concept on their sleeve. They are angry, they want to kill things, they want to kill you, and maybe some of their friends, and that's the faction. They're red, they're mad, they're gonna run at you and cause death. If you like that, you play the World Eaters. Or you like it because they were, you know, at one point a lot better than that. Most of Warhammer was a lot better than that. I was once a lot better than that. That was when I was in college. I didn't finish college, and neither did Angron.
Ooh, the Ultramarines. It's not done by sunrise. I'll cut your balls off.
The Ultramarines. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Rabute Gilliman. That's how it's said. An Analyst, a Diplomat, a Blueberry Boy Scout. Single word descriptor, duty. When you see Space Marines on a box or just Space Marines in promotional material, notice how they are always colored blue. These are the blue Space Marines. These ones here, the Ultramarines, who hail from the world of Macrogge with their Primarch, Rabute Gorilla Man. Ultramarines are the white bread of Space Marines, the grilled chicken with salt and pepper. And this is by no means an insult. They are plain Jane, but that's also because they are so goddamn good at their job. Their skill for warfare is paramount, but so is their ability for leadership. Gilliman for a while was a damn boring Primarch for all the reasons he was great, because no matter how hard you try, you don't win a war without logistics, without supply lines, without trade routes, without infrastructure and economy. You don't win anything without all that stuff, and Gilliman knows it, which is why he has one of the largest standing empires in the Imperium, named Ultramar, which is why his sons are the most recognizable of all the Space Marines, which is why the only thing that rivals the weight of their victories is the weight of their egos. They are good at everything and bad at nothing. They are great at everything.
Jack of all trades.
Can do other things better than them, but they are good at everything. The most interesting thing about the Ultramarines is their characters, as they are all now inflicted with various amounts of ultra depression for many reasons. Gilliman is, at the time of recording, the only playable Primarch currently on the tabletop, and the only one that has returned to the 41st millennium for the Loyalist side. He took one look at what his empire has become and immediately wanted to fucking die. Being forced to leave everything he once hated, an Imperium rotten to its core with his sole responsibility to save it, is kind of what makes him interesting. They are a perfectly standard legion with perfectly standard ideals, and great if you want a simple, clean slate.
Uh-oh, stinky.
The Death
funny
God.
poop. Poop funny. Woo.
We are moving through these
Guard.
legions.
Allegiance, Heretic. Primarch, Mortarian. A Reaper, a Poison, an ungodly stench. Single word descriptor, rot. The Death Guard hail from Barbaros.
That reminds me of the Chaos
Primarch,
guy.
Mortarium. The 14th Legion were known for their incredible resilience to damage.
That's a lot of damage.
Where the Imperial Fists were defensive thanks to tactics and posturing, the Death Guard were resilient because they could take a punch or a gut shot or a cannon to the chest and just keep on moving. They are slow, yet they are resistant, which was only confounded as a Death Guard captain, Typhus, codename Dickhead, sold them out to Nurgle, god of rot and decay. Now, the Death Guard are a Nurgle-worshipping infected legion whose ability to feel pain and take damage has all but just gone away. They wade through gunfire, able to kill normal Marines 10 times over and continue unharmed, all while spreading rot and disease in the name of their dark, very stinky
Nurgle.
master. Where the Death Guard enter, plague spreads. People get sick and they die. They spread debilitating disease to all around them. Why would a legion need to be anything more than very tanky when their enemies are falling over, puking, firing out of both ends, and having their skin skin peel off just by their presence. Entire worlds infested with a zombie rot, swarms of insects that eat flesh and metal alike, while the Legion advances slowly.
That's crazy.
Painfully, allowing the disease they spread to take its toll before they reap the lives they believe belong to them. And look at Mortarian's model, dude. The man is baller as fuck. A gigantic moth with a gigantic scythe. Come on now. The Death Guard.
For my next trick!
I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
The Thousand Sons. Allegiance, Heretic. Primarch, Magnus the Red. A scholar, a sorcerer, a fucking nerd. Single word descriptor, magic. The Thousand Sons hail from their homeworld of Prospero, with their Primarch Magnus the Red. The final of our 4 major Chaos God factions, the Thousand Sons are disciples of Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. Heavily inspired by their Egyptian theming, the Legion themselves are slaves to the god of trickery and change. Most of them no longer even having a physical form, reduced to just dust, piloting suits of armor at the whim of a sorcerer leader. The Thousand Sons do not deserve their fate. There's a common joke that Magnus did nothing wrong. This is untrue. He has done much wrong. However, he is very sympathetic, mainly because the Space Wolves and Leman Russ sought to end their rivalry through the annihilation of their legion, escaping only through the assistance of the Changer of Ways, and forever changed because of it. Meanwhile, magic is their main tool. Take some Lovecraftian style abilities, the eyes everywhere, and potent spells to be cast at their foes, whether these are bolts of psychic lightning, reversing time itself, opening up portals to unreality, or changing the very fabric of the universe. The Thousand Sons sorcery knows no bounds, and they are very good at it. If you're a fan of like wizards, your classic style of spellcaster, and you want a ton of them, combined with a tragic backstory and a Primarch who, like Mortarian, looks fucking baller,
dude, he does look awesome. He got horns coming out of his nipple.
You fucking
nipple
asshole!
Horns.
There's no way. You're a fucking cheater.
You're such a sore loser.
You're a cheater. My dad works at Nintendo.
The Sons of Horus, or the Luna Wolves, or the Black Legion. Allegiance, Heretic. Primarch, Horus, a warlord, a treasured friend, or the traitor himself. Single word descriptor, assault. The Sons of Horus are the formal name of Horus's legion, hailing from the world of Chthoniya. The Sons of Horus themselves were assault troops. The strength of their attack was some of the most powerful in the legions. While the White Scars may favor speed for their strikes, the Sons of Horus were known for their overall offensive power. It was even said that if the Sons of Horus met the Imperial Fists, they would be at a stalemate for eternity. However, the Sons of Horus are no longer, because, well...
yeah, about that.
They are now instead the Black Legion, led by Abaddon the Despoiler, who claims to succeed where his father failed. The Black Legion are still an offensive and assault-based force, but they act much like the Ultramarines, but for chaos. Your standard black and brass Space Marine, who are known for recruiting in all different kinds of avenues. Anyone can become a member of the Black Legion. Anyone can swear allegiance to the War Master. You gain favored by not just one, but all 4 gods equally. Their famous line, "Let the galaxy burn," is the best way to describe them. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. So long as the Imperium dies, the Black Legion has done its job. They are a legion formed from hatred and spite, with a clear goal in mind, as the Dark Gods are calling, and the Black Legion are sure to answer.
Hello. Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ?
No.
No.
Fucking optional!
The Word Bearers. Allegiance, Heretic. Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian, a preacher, a fanatic, a choir boy. Single word descriptor, zeal. If the Black Legion answer the call of the Dark Gods, what if instead you decide to call the gods first? Well, then the Word Bearers are for you. The 17th Legion, led by Primarch Lorgar on the planet of Colchis. Originally obsessed with worshiping the Emperor of Mankind as a god, they found that despite his divinity, he was not worthy of worship because, you know, he razed their equivalent of Jerusalem to the ground for daring to worship him. Like, could you imagine if God actually showed up and was just like, Jerusalem is stupid, it just destroyed the whole thing? Like, what would that do to your head? But there are gods that want worship and will reward those who do. The word bearers are chaos worshippers to a T. All chaos gods. They specialize in demonic rituals, the summoning of demons, and the mutual possession of their own troops. They welcome demons to their bodies to fight as one. They exalt the dark gods themselves for aid, and guess what? They answer. In the world of 40K, Satan doesn't just call you back.
That's crazy.
He hops in his GT Mustang and he crashes on your couch. In the world of 40K, your rituals will end with genuine results. The word bearers know this. They know through sacrifices, through devotion, through dark baptism, the gods will answer and they will be rewarded. So they use it. They bring forth demons. They bring forth possessions. They bring forth the power of the Neverborn, the damned,
by the same demon every time? Like, how does that work?
To bear against the Imperium. Lorgar sits there, smiling, as the truth he always knew, the existence of gods and the importance of faith is a reality. And it is a tool he is using to rend the galaxy.
Dear Sir Stroke Madam, fire! Exclamation mark. Fire! Exclamation mark. Help me!
The Salamanders. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Vulcan, a Forge Master, a Behemoth, a very huggy boy. Single word descriptor, fire. The Salamanders hail from Nocturne, a volcanic planet home to their Primarch.
I feel like that's
Vulcan.
a color that
They
you can
are
get
the
in the
largest of the Space Marines, not due to numbers, but rather size. Vulcan, he is an enormous slab of beef, by far the largest of all the Primarchs. However, don't let his size fool you, as he is also the kindest. Salamanders have the juxtaposition of looking frightening, being larger than other Marines, while also boasting an ashy, like coal color skin and blazing red eyes, while simultaneously carrying around all manner of flame weaponry. So your average civilian might be spooked, but in reality, they are by far the kindest of all the legions to those civilians. Vulcan believes that to safeguard the Imperium is to, at the end of the day, safeguard its people. So unlike other legions who put their lives far and above the average human, the Salamanders spend significantly more time trying to save them, often taking numerous losses by doing so. They are very independent.
Hell
as
yeah,
well.
that's why I chose the green color on my multiplayer
maintaining their own weapons and crafting versions of it. They also have the very rare privilege of being able to see their families even after becoming a Space Marine. They care, which is the funny part, because the 7.5-foot tall giant with flaming red eyes who just reduced a traitor to bubbling metal says, "You have nothing to fear, young citizen. Take my hand." If you enjoy fire, melting things, and being the nicer of the Marines,
the Malta.
Salamanders are for you.
Use that before it gets nerfed.
Sneak attack! Saga, sneak attacks don't work if you yell it out loud.
The Raven Guard. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Corvus Corax. A raven, a shadow, an industrial dance DJ. Single word descriptor, stealth. The Raven Guard are the final Loyalist Legion at 19 and hail from the planet Deliverance with Primarch Corvus Corax. If it hasn't been made clear enough already, the Raven Guard are stealth specialists and proficient in all manners of assassination. Despite this, their signature winged jump pack and double lightning claw look is, well, not very stealthy.
That looks awesome,
They're
though.
named after, of course, the Raven and embody the entire concept of it as a herald of death. They are stealthy, patient hunters that have no problem with waiting and waiting and waiting until the moment to strike is at hand. It's not easy being a stealth faction when your stealth involves people in 1 ton of power armor, but they find a way. That, more than anything, should not be used to show how ridiculous 40K is, even though it is, but rather to show how good the Raven Guard are at their jobs. It's not about them sneaking around you without being seen, but it's also about them having lied in wait for so long that it wasn't until they were in striking distance that you even realized they had been there. And also, if you want, edgelord Marines with a long black haircut, pale skin, ravens everywhere, if you want to field assassins and snipers abound, then the Raven Guard are for you.
It could be in this very room. It could be you. It could be me. It could even be... Whoa, whoa, whoa! What? It was obvious.
I don't even know what that quote's from.
Allegiance, Heretic. Primarch, Alfarius, and Omegon. Saboteurs, destabilizers, they're in your walls. Single word descriptor, espionage. Finally,
interesting.
20th Legion, the Alpha Legion, led by Alfarius and Omegon, the only Legion to have two Primarchs who were split as twins. The Alpha Legion are heretical, we think, and specialize in destabilization of society and armies. Their entire shtick is the Hydra, because when you cut off one head, two more take its place. All of the Alpha Legion look exactly like their Primarch. Olive skin, shaved head. All claim to be Alfarius. All are liars. They make the largest use of sleeper cells and cultists in the Chaos Space Marine factions because it's extremely easy to take over a planet when you
poisoned our water supply, burned our crops, and delivered a plague unto our houses.
Where the Raven Guard use stealth and sabotage to eliminate their enemies, the Alpha Legion prefer to weaken them over time with sleeper agents, impersonations, basically anything you can imagine from a hardcore spy movie or Cold War level espionage.
That
Being
sounds
Alfarius
wild.
is not only an honor, being Alfarius is a requirement. There's a story of someone chasing down an Alpha Legion agent for years upon years, and when they finally catch up with them and they see that the agent is wearing the same face as their pursuer, because this was the plan all along, to kill him and take his spot. We're talking
damn, that's
reconstruction
crazy.
surgery,
What?
we're talking hacking, we're talking political assassination and impersonation, everything. They are Space Marines in name only, because being a strong stoic warrior is not what the Alpha Legion is interested in. In fact, the Alpha Legion is interested in you not even knowing that the Alpha Legion is a thing. I am Alfarius. You are Alfarius. We are all Alfarius in his Lord's glorious army. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little something. I hope if you were on the fence about what Space Marines you wanted to field, you would now have a better idea of what you want to play. Buy my Gamer Sub Shaper.
Yeah, I don't even know if those are
sale.
for sale anymore, but go check them out if they are on the Gamer Subs website. And if I'm not mistaken, he actually posted this pre-whatcha-call-it, him buying Gamer Subs, so yeah. Hold on, let me pause this. I gotta gather my thoughts here. So, Warhammer's fucked up. It's a pretty wild world, you know. At first I thought I knew a decent amount because of just playing Rogue Trader with my boys, but like I didn't know. I had no idea. I don't even know what that warp gate does yet. We're not going to get into that. But like, wow, there were a lot more Space Marines that were like heretics than I thought. I thought like to be a Space Marine, like you are part of the loyalist. I thought you were part of, like, to be a Space Marine you had to be loyalist, but apparently like I guess as time goes on and factions keep getting created, that it that's crazy. Out of curiosity, because it seems like there's only like one faction that like keeps track of knowledge. Is there a reason for that? Like, is this like a One Piece thing where as the eras and the generations keep going on, they don't educate them? It doesn't seem like there's any education system at all. It was just a kill system. But it's interesting. I want to learn. I want to know more. So Billy, go ahead and drop it in the comments, and maybe we'll take another walk. Today I achieved 2 miles. So this entire video, hey, how about that? I walked my ass off. We got that going. So I'll see you in the next one, Billy. Thanks for watching. Bye.